This is the Oliver Lynn channel, and this comes to us from the ebook I wrote entitled Trump the Magnificence of America, Nobody's a Picture Perfect. Comes this forecast for the election tomorrow. As we see the election of 1884 playing back this year, as chronicled in Trump the Magnificence of America, Nobody's a Picture Perfect, Donald Trump's historic twin, as seen here, is Grover Cleveland. In 1884, this iconic figure defeated James G. Blaine, Hillary Clinton's polarity from the election of 1884, in the closest presidential contest in U.S. history. I read the book in the 7 videos on this channel. It took a total of about 3.5 hours, I believe. It's an incredible replay from history. How will this 1884 election finish this time around in 2016? Well, just like the Cubs' incredible win in Game 7, bringing the 1908 Cubs full circle to win this year, history loves to repeat itself and is hard to stop. The iconic hero Grover Cleveland is returning as his future twin, Donald Trump. Grover Cleveland was the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Well, this is going to give him his 3rd term, 130 years from when 132 years from when this 1884 election took place. This time, his future twin is Donald Trump, and he is going to attempt to restore this republic after the past 50 years of it being flushed down the globalist toilet by the establishment presidents in this last 50 years, I'd say, at least, if not more. And by using the millenniums-old military tactic of moving large groups of people from other cultures or tribes into a country to destroy its culture, and thus over time subjugating it. I bet most don't even know, while they were being programmed to accept the politically correct multicultural diversity programming that we've had in this country for almost 30 years, that they were being used by the establishment filth to destroy their own country. Well, surprise, that's what they did, and a lot of people fell for it. But as with the Cubs, we saw a 4-1 win in the 1908 World Series against Detroit. So that was pretty easy, 4-1. Now, when it replayed this World Series, which we just watched, the replay was 4-3, a Cubs victory. So it was way closer this time. It was way harder World Series than the 1908 one. So when you look at the 1884 election, which is playing back now, the 1884 election was the closest in presidential history. All details are in the ebook Trump the Magnificence of America, Nobody's a Picture Perfect. It was so close in 1884, which should mean now that this year's replay of the 1884 election will be a way wider margin this time around, tomorrow, on November 8th, 2016. Before we get into any of the historical elections that we'll look at here, a couple of them, let's look at a couple things that I'm sure a lot of people have noticed during this election, things that you see, like I say in the book. Don't ever just look at something for what it is. Look at the messages that you see around it. Like all the times in Donald Trump articles, for some reason, Grover Cleveland books pop up. There was never any connection between the two. I account for that in the book that I read on the videos, the 7 videos there. I go into that a little bit. But when you say some of the things that I've noticed is, like on one of the late night comedies, they'll be making a joke about Donald Trump, and then they'll say, what if you woke up tomorrow and you saw this? And then they have a picture of a newspaper on the screen, and it says, you wake up Wednesday morning, and this is what you see. And there it says, Trump wins in a landslide, is the front page cover. Okay, I've seen things like that on Hillary Clinton's ads. The one I've watched, she puts out the bad points and stuff of Donald Trump as she sees it, and then in like flashing neon bright light it says Trump will win, and then it comes up with vote on the screen, and then it has where to donate. But that Trump will win, and Trump landslide, and you see a lot of things like that. And then, people are worried about this election being stolen by the establishment. I don't think they'll steal it because Hillary has already conceded it. And the way a candidate concedes an election, you remember a lot of the famous quotes, and all the politicians do it. And we'll give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt since he isn't a politician. Only the last, 8 or 9 months or something like that. But politicians, they'll always tell you, well, like George Bush said, read my lips, no new taxes. Okay, they always say that if they want to get elected. Okay, and everybody knows it's a lie. But Hillary came out and said that she's going to raise the taxes. I've heard it several times. And this is what a candidate does when they concede the election. There's been 2 candidates in presidential history that have conceded elections this way in the past, and you never hear it unless that election is being conceded. So I don't think the election is going to be conceded or stolen from Donald Trump. I believe Hillary Clinton has already conceded it. So you have a lot of programming going on for Trump landslide, and Trump will win, and Hillary saying she's going to raise taxes, which is tantamount to saying I concede the election. So as we get back here, let's see now let's take a look at the historical presidential elections held on a 9-year, as 2016 is. To get a 9-year, just add 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 6 equals 9. Now there was, let's see, how many are we going to look at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going back to 1836. And what you're going to notice here is something really peculiar about these 9 years. And 1836 was a 9-year. You got 1 plus 8 plus 3 plus 6 equals 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. So what you had in that year, and this was actually the closest 9-year presidential vote. And 9 years, it's always a blowout. It's always a landslide. Okay? This is the closest one here. Martin Van Buren, a Democrat, received 170 electoral votes. William Henry Harrison received 73 electoral votes. In 1872, which is another 9-year, Ulysses S. Grant, the Republican, received 286 electoral votes. Horace Greeley, the Liberal Republican, received 3. He initially received 66, but he died between the election and the Electoral College. And they were divided. Those 66 were divided amongst other competitors, and he wound up with 3. So you see that was a blowout, landslide, 286 to 66, or 3. Then we go to 1908, which is another 9-year. We had William Howard Taft, the Republican. He had 321 electoral votes. And we had William Jennings Bryan, the Democrat. He had 162. We move on to the 1944 election. Franklin Roosevelt, he had 432 electoral votes. He was a Democrat. And Thomas Dewey had 99 electoral votes. He was the Republican. So you can see that landslide, 432 to 99. Then we move to 1980, which you've seen a lot of comparisons to this year, and Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan, and this election to that election, because, see, it's a 9-year, and that was also a 9-year. And Ronald Reagan, the Republican, had 489 electoral votes. Jimmy Carter, the Democrat, had 49 electoral votes. So you can see all of these elections on a 9-year, going back to 1836, which was as far back as I could go for 9 years in presidential, the way we do the presidential elections today. So then, what does this all mean? Well, we can see that this should be a wide margin of victory for the winner, because the 1884 election was the closest in presidential history. This one should open up. We see all the 9 years showing that the closest is about 100 electoral votes. And putting these all together, the states that Grover Cleveland won in 1884, and you can keep track of this to see if Donald Trump wins the same. In 1884, Grover Cleveland won Alabama, Arkansas, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida. He won Florida by 6.23%. Let's see how close that one is. Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri. Grover Cleveland won Missouri by 7.47%. Let's see how Donald Trump, how much he wins there if he wins. New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia. Grover Cleveland won Virginia by 2.15% or points. And West Virginia. There was only 38 states in the Union at that point. So we've added another 12. So we're going to watch those 3 states and see how close Donald Trump comes to Grover Cleveland's percentages in those 3 states, plus how many of these states that Grover Cleveland won in 1884 will Donald Trump win this year. And the interesting thing was, as detailed in the book, all the major players from 1884 came back. Grover Cleveland was a Democrat. There was 5 other characters in that election that I found, and all the Democrats in 84 came back as Republicans in 2016. All the Republicans in 1884 came back as Democrats in 2016. So it would be kind of strange to see that Donald Trump would win the same or close to the same states that Grover Cleveland won. But I'll bet you it's probably going to be about 80% of those or more. So what is my final prediction? Okay, everything taken into account, the historical significance, the incredible history that is replaying this year, and Grover Cleveland trying to ascend back to the presidential White House, and also his wife, Frances Folsom Cleveland, is the same program that Melania Trump is, and there's so many identical things between them also that you can hear in the book. So, the final prediction that I give, that Donald Trump will get between 130 and 140 million total popular votes. His electoral votes will be between 310 and 330. Hillary Clinton, coming back as James G. Blaine's polarity, I'm predicting that she will get between 190 and 220 electoral votes. I believe that Donald Trump, Grover Cleveland in 1884 won 20 states, and James G. Blaine won 18. Looking at everything combined, I believe that Donald Trump will win somewhere between 33 and 37 states this year, and he'll get between 130 and 140 million popular votes. The most ever gotten was 135 million, and that was in 2008 by Barack Obama. And Donald Trump will finish with 310 to 300 electoral votes. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see if we got the call right, and we'll do an update on this in a couple days once I get all the numbers in to check all the rest of the states and see which polarities fall, because he's not going to win every state like Grover Cleveland did. There will be polarities, opposites, but we'll see just how many they are and how close the percentages were in state wins, just like we did with Mordecai Brown coming back as Jake Arrieta. Pitched 11 innings, won 2 games. Jake Arrieta pitched 11 and 1/3 inning. won 2 games in the World Series. The one from 1908, one from 2016. It was a complete, came full circle. And that is what this event here tomorrow is trying to do. And no one sees it. I'd done this stuff back at the end of January, beginning of February. Just waiting for tomorrow and see what happens. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening. Good night.